Hi, I'm Tanis with Occupy Pocatello, and we're here in front of Wells Fargo in Idaho Falls. We're here with Occupy Idaho Falls, demonstrating against the bank's contribution to the housing crisis. And for one local woman, the housing crisis hits home.
Today, because we've become more and more aware of the foreclosure problem in the United States. Right now, the banks are, as you know, have foreclosed on about 10 million homes in the United States over the last few years. The problem with that is that they've been doing it highly illegally. They've been hiring people to fraudulently sign on documents in order to do these foreclosures, and the U.S. government and the state governments have been supporting it by having courts that don't even demand the documentation. They just go ahead and file foreclosures. So we have a case here in Idaho Falls where Karla Covington was able to contact the state and the state attorneys general and stop a foreclosure on her house. But there are thousands more out there. Another example is in Cleveland, where they're knocking houses down because there's so many foreclosed homes. They're knocking prices down, and it's a huge problem. If you think it doesn't affect you, it does. If you've bought any property since 1980, the banks have no record of those deeds. They don't know who you're supposed to pay off. They don't really. I mean, it's a question about whether the title companies really have been giving you clear title, and so it's a huge issue. So we're here to make people aware of the huge issue that we have with the banks, that they're not upfront with us about the problems that they're having, and that our congressmen are just sitting on their hands. Our politicians are arguing about mundane things that have nothing to do with what's happening in the United States. Financially, we're in deep trouble because these banks do not know who owns most of the property in the United States, and that's commercial as well as residential. So we're here protesting because Wells Fargo's here, Chase is over there, and of course we do want to point out that local banks are typically not involved in this housing problem. It's our multinational banks, our investment banks, the huge corporations that are involved worldwide and have been instrumental not only in our recession but in the worldwide recession.
The reason that I got involved with Occupy Idaho Falls is because it's something we need. We need to speak out against big money buying our politicians. We need to get money out of politics. And since bank fraud has been investigated and some people were found guilty, why hasn't it been prosecuted?
Been collecting money to give to Karla. So here's an envelope with $275, $78 in it. It says, Karla Covington, thank you and congratulations for having forced Wells Fargo Bank to admit their wrongdoing. The 99% of Idaho Falls, Occupy Idaho Falls has so far collected $278 to help ever so slightly to defray the cost of Wells Fargo Bank's illegal and immoral attempt to foreclose on your home. Every fair-minded citizen has benefited from your courage and persistence.
Nice.
Yay! You're welcome. Thank you. Oh my gosh. You just said thank you, and you've been doing the work that we all need done, kiddo.
We're here in front of Karla Covington's home in Idaho Falls. Karla Covington is a longtime resident of Idaho Falls, and she's going to give us some her story on her dealings with Wells Fargo Bank. So tell us about yourself.
I've lived here in Idaho Falls for about 30 years, raised my children here. 20 years ago, my husband and I found this place in the country and thought it was a perfect place to raise kids. So we bought it and lived here. He passed away in 2004, and even after that I was able to keep up the payments until my youngest daughter became critically ill, and she was ill for about 2 years, and during that time I really struggled to make ends meet. But we've made it through it, and now Wells Fargo has tried to attempt to take my home.
How did you get involved with Wells Fargo?
When my husband and I looked at financing the house 20 years ago, Wells Fargo had probably the best rate, and so we just went with them.
Okay. How did you get behind on your payments?
It came about when my daughter became ill as the sole earner for the family. She does have insurance that covered her health costs, but it doesn't cover the cost that it takes to be there to take care of her. And the missed time at work, there were weeks when I was able to only work maybe 10 hours a week. So my paychecks took a drastic hit.
What did you do when you got behind on your payments?
I got a hold of Wells Fargo and advised them as to what was going on and asked them for a loan modification, because at that point in time I'd been in here about 18 years and thought, you know, after 18 years of payments they would work with me. So we went into a loan modification. They stayed in that for about 9 months and then came back and said, oops, we can't do it now, you have to pay us $7,000.
Okay. Did the courts accept the new payment program? Or?
Well, at that point in time, when they said we had to do the $7,000, I filed a Chapter 13 bankruptcy so that I could pay the past due amount through the bankruptcy. Through that process, Wells Fargo and the bankruptcy court and the bankruptcy trustee and myself reached an agreement in July of 2011 where they said they would accept a new payment and have the arrearage paid through the courts.
Okay. When did you find out you were in foreclosure?
I didn't even know it was in foreclosure till I got a call from a friend on December 13th who said, hey, did you know your house is for sale in the paper in the foreclosure section? That was how I found out.
What did you do when you heard the news?
Once I was able to breathe again, after hearing that, I got online and checked the paper online, and sure enough, it was there. I called my bankruptcy attorney, let him know, and just... You kind of go into panic survival mode, just trying to figure out what you're going to do to save your home.
So, how did the local community become involved?
Well, my daughter has special needs. The one who is ill has special needs, and we had so many people pulling up to take pictures of the house and to look at it. It was throwing her anxiety and her fear to the point she was having nightmares. And I just thought it was time to stand up to Wells Fargo and just stop letting them humiliate me and shame me. And so I put a sign up and took pictures and posted it on Facebook, hoping that other people would care and be concerned and let my story maybe help other people.
Great. Now, have you received notice of the current action by Wells Fargo?
Well, there was a letter that was received by the Attorney General's office saying that they had entered into a special forbearance with me and that there would be 3 payments and then we'd go into a modification plan. But my concern is when I called the trustee who's handling the foreclosure sale on Friday, they said it is still listed for sale on February 2nd. And that they're still planning on going forward with it at this point.
How did the Attorney General get involved?
That was one of the things when I found out that they had put it in foreclosure, I started writing to every elected official that I could find asking for help. So I wrote to Governor Otter, Senator Mike Crapo, Senator Jim Risch, and who got the State Department of Finance and the Attorney General's office involved, and then Senator Crapo's conducting his own investigation.
Okay. So how do you feel now about the situation?
I feel really, really grateful for the number of people that have come out to help and have the love and the support of the community. And I'm also still really scared because I was going along thinking everything was okay through the bankruptcy, and then I was threatened with losing the last bit that I have of my husband and our life together. And even though Wells Fargo says they've stopped at this point, they haven't stopped. So I feel like there's a sword hanging over my head with just one string holding on to it.
I'd just like to say that if people think that Karla is an exception and someone that it's her problem and her thing, they're very wrong, because this issue is huge. The banks really, if you've bought a house since 1980, they may not know where your deed is, they didn't file it, and it may have been securitized. If that's the case, we're all in trouble because the banks don't know who owns any property in the United States, and that's both residential and commercial. It's a big problem for all of us, you know, and we're all of us just one big illness or losing your job away from losing our homes. So it's not just Karla's problem, it's all of our problems.
Yeah. Do you think that's in part due to the mortgage electronic registry system, the MERS?
Well, in large part it's due to that, but it's also due to the deregulation and the fact that nobody was watching what the banks are doing or nobody's caring what the banks are doing. And so I think we've just started to see the real problem.
Join us in our fight to end corporate greed. Take the money out of politics. The banks got bailed out. You got sold out. You are the 99%. This is what democracy looks like. Tell me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. Tell me what democracy looks like. We got plenty of time. What's she do now?
I told her to be careful with her dancing.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's showtime! Money talks! Money talks! Government walks! Hey, hey, ho, ho, corporate greed has got to go! Hey, hey, ho, ho, corporate greed has got to go! Hey, hey, ho, ho, corporate greed has got to go! Hey, hey, ho, ho, corporate greed has got to go! Hey, hey, ho, ho, corporate greed has got to go! Hey, hey, ho, ho, corporate greed has got to go! Here we were, just walking down the street saying, Occupy Pocatello. Occupy Pocatello, you two are the 99%. Check us out on Facebook. The banks got bailed out. You got sold out. Take the money out of politics and corporate greed. You two are the 99%. People, united, will never be divided. People, united, will never be divided. People, united, will never be divided.
Catalog. All the time. And probably going to become great. Started. Ready?
How did you keep the candle?
Well, it's like, Massachusetts doing this public health. Google on me. Government election. All right, we'll see if we're going to do that. Okay, Al. All right.